For nearly 3 decades, Amelia Carter devoted every heartbeat to raising her adopted son, Lucas. In a quiet suburb of Charleston, South Carolina, she worked as a private caregiver, scrubbing floors by day, sewing handmade crafts by night. All to give Lucas a future worth fighting for. She had no family left, no retirement plan, no dreams of her own. Just Lucas. She missed birthdays, skipped doctor's appointments, even gave up her marriage. Because he came first. Always. But everything shattered the day she came home and quietly announced she'd lost her job. Instead of sympathy, Lucas's face twisted with disgust. He called her a freeloader, a burden, and in that moment, the woman who once sacrificed everything, decided to sacrifice nothing more. What Lucas didn't know was that Amelia's late employer, a wealthy widow who'd quietly grown to love her like a sister, had left her a secret inheritance of $8 million. Amelia had power now. But she also had a broken heart, and for the first time, she was about to show the world. And Lucas. That even the most selfless mothers have their limits. Amelia had barely stepped through the door when her son Lucas snapped. "You quit," he barked, face tightening. "You were making $8,000 a month, what are you planning to do now? Just sit around and sponge off us." The words struck her like a whip. Her lips parted, ready to explain. But he didn't let her speak, not once. Her eyes flickered toward his wife, Grace, who sat stone-faced on the couch, arms crossed. She never liked Amelia. Grace came from a long line of academics, her mother a tenured professor, her father a local judge. Lucas, in their eyes, had married beneath her. And Amelia, she was just the hired help who overstayed her welcome. Amelia forced a smile, trying to smooth things over. "I thought I'd come home early to help with the baby. Didn't you say Grace was planning to get pregnant?" Grace's cold stare sharpened. "Postpartum care requires professionals," she said dryly. "You cleaned houses for a living, you're not equipped." Before Amelia could respond, Grace's mother, Helen, chimed in with a rehearsed chuckle. "Raising a baby isn't just bottles and diapers, it's science." They were coordinated, calculated. And just like that, Amelia was dismissed, not as a mother or grandmother Tobe, but as an obsolete tool. Trying to hold her dignity, Amelia said softly, "Well, if you already have things arranged, I won't interfere." Helen rolled her eyes. "Fine. But you'll cover the cost of the nanny and night nurse. I'll handle the hiring." The knot in Amelia's chest tightened. Lucas didn't hesitate to pile on. "Exactly, Mom. You never should have quit. Our expenses are about to double, and we need that income. You're still healthy. You can work another 20 years, right?" "Another 20 years, she swallowed hard. "I'm 58. I think it's time I rest. I've worked long enough. I'm retiring." "Retiring?" Grace laughed bitterly. "With what pension?" Amelia's hands trembled. "You told me not to save for retirement. Said it was better to help pay off your mortgage." Grace scoffed. "That's because your income was pathetic. You never planned ahead." Lucas jumped in, raising his voice now. "Mom, enough. Grace is trying to conceive. You're stressing her out. We need help, not lectures." That's when it all clicked for Amelia. They didn't want her home. They didn't want her rest, they wanted her paycheck. That's all she had ever been to them. She stood taller, straighter than she had in years. "Said I'm retiring, and I meant it." Helen's face darkened. "Then you'll need somewhere else to stay. This isn't a boarding house." Lucas didn't object. Grace didn't blink. It was over. Amelia finally understood. Love, to them, came with strings, pulled tight around her throat. But what they didn't know was she had already untied those strings. She wasn't the desperate maid anymore. She was a woman with $8 million, and a storm quietly brewing in her heart. The next morning, Amelia awoke to the sound of her suitcase being dragged across the floor. She stepped into the hallway just in time to see Lucas shoving it toward the front door. "You're serious about retiring?" he said, voice sharp. "Then don't expect to stay here for free." "Lucas," she started, stunned. Grace emerged behind him, arms folded, cold eyes gleaming. "You don't contribute anymore. There's no room for charity." Amelia's chest tightened, her throat burned. "Bought this house," she said quietly. "Every dollar of it came from me." "But it's in our name," Grace snapped. "You gifted it. That's the law. So don't get any ideas." Lucas said nothing. No defense, no remorse, just silence. Then Helen, Grace's mother, walked in, phone in hand and a false smile plastered across her face. Now, let's not be dramatic. I know a wealthy couple looking for a live-in assistant. Room and board included. High pay. You've done it before, haven't you, Amelia? It's a perfect fit." Grace grinned. Think of it as pulling your weight. Your income could help offset our new baby expenses. Amelia's mouth went dry. They were trying to sell her off. Again. I'm not going back to work for anyone, she said, voice firm. Not now. Not ever. Helen's smile disappeared. Well then, she said curtly, there's a senior residence nearby. They accept work-based stays. Kitchen staff, cleaning, you could earn your keep. Grace nodded approvingly. Yes, much more reasonable. You'll have a roof over your head and finally stop being a burden. Amelia turned to Lucas. Her son, her life. You're really okay with this, sending me to mop floors just to survive? He looked away. You always said you wanted independence. This is it, you support yourself, we don't owe each other anything. He pulled out his phone and began dialing. There's a spot available. I already checked. Amelia's heart shattered. The child she'd raised from a sickly orphan into a strong, educated man, was throwing her away. You think I owe you? She whispered. I gave you everything, and now I'm trash. Lucas exploded. You ruined everything. If you hadn't divorced Dad, I'd be rich now. You owe me. Amelia froze. He didn't know. He never knew. She had left that marriage so Lucas could live. His birth father had refused to raise him. Said he wasn't his real child. The only reason Amelia walked away was to save him from being dumped back into foster care. Now he stood here, screaming, kicking her suitcase open. I'm done, she said, voice trembling with finality. You and I. We're nothing now. She picked up her things, turned her back on the only family she'd ever known, and walked out the door without looking back. What they didn't know was that this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of her becoming everything they thought she'd never be. The hotel room was quiet, too quiet. Amelia sat at the edge of the king-sized bed, staring blankly at the city skyline through the window. She hadn't cried, not yet. The pain didn't need tears anymore. It settled in her bones. For the first time in 30 years, she was truly alone. But solitude had a strange way of bringing clarity. As she unpacked her single suitcase, Amelia pulled out an old envelope. Inside were photographs. Of Lucas at 2 years old, hooked up to oxygen tubes. Of her younger self standing outside a hospital in the snow, fingers raw from working overnight shifts just to pay the bills. She remembered everything. How she found Lucas at the city orphanage. How he clung to her finger, frail and trembling. How her then-husband gave her an ultimatum, give up the boy or give up the marriage. And how, without hesitation, she chose the boy. She'd done everything for him, worked triple shifts, skipped meals, gave up dreams, all for a child she didn't even birth. And in return, he called her a burden, threw her out like yesterday's trash. Amelia rose to her feet. Something had shifted. The pain hadn't vanished, but in its place was a powerful awareness. She didn't owe anyone anything anymore. She picked up the hotel phone and dialed a number she'd kept in her wallet for years. The private attorney of her late employer, Mrs. Whitmore, the woman who had once told Amelia, "You have the heart of a queen, and one day you'll wear your crown." "Mr. Dalton," she said calmly. "I'm ready." "Ms. Carter," he replied with warmth, "the inheritance has already been processed. All $8.3 million is officially yours." The air in the room shifted. Amelia closed her eyes. She wasn't just a broke, discarded housekeeper anymore. She was a woman with options, power, and peace finally within reach. The next morning, Amelia walked into a luxury real estate office dressed in the same clothes they once mocked. No designer brands, no glamour, just resilience. The agent who greeted her barely looked up, but within 5 minutes his tone changed. Amelia showed the verified account statements, over $8 million, no debts, no cosigners. Suddenly, she wasn't invisible. By that afternoon, Amelia had purchased 2 villas, one to live in, one as an investment. Paid in full. She didn't do it to brag. She did it to reclaim control. Every door that slammed in her face had led her here. That evening, she walked through the marble foyer of her new home, heels echoing off the floor. She paused by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the sun dip behind the trees. No one could throw her out again. No one could decide her worth. Amelia Carter, once a woman defined by sacrifice, was now defined by something else entirely. Freedom, and this was only the beginning. 1 week after moving into her new villa, Amelia Carter found herself stepping into a place she never thought she'd return to. A high-end real estate showroom. She wasn't there to buy another house. At least, not at first. But something inside her whispered, this is where your new chapter begins. The showroom buzzed with polished voices and designer heels. Staff bustled with tablets in hand, closing million-dollar deals for eager buyers. Amelia wore a simple cardigan and comfortable flats. Miles away from the socialites browsing beside her, a young woman named Monica, still new to the team, greeted her warmly. "Would you like to see the model homes?" Amelia smiled. "Yes. Let's have a look." They'd barely made it a few steps when a sharp voice rang out across the room. "Who's letting that woman in?" Amelia turned, and there she was. Chloe, Helen's niece and a sales associate with the nastiest reputation in town. They'd met once during a family gathering at Lucas and Grace's house. Chloe had made sure Amelia knew she didn't belong. "You again?" Chloe sneered, strutting over in Louboutin heels, looking for freebies. "Sorry, this isn't a soup kitchen." Amelia didn't flinch. "I'm here to view property. Are you the gatekeeper now?" Chloe scoffed. "You, a maid looking to buy property here. Don't embarrass yourself." The staff fell silent. Clients turned to watch, but Amelia didn't blink. Instead, she calmly pulled up her phone, opened her banking app, and held the screen out. The room gasped. $8 million. Someone whispered. Chloe's face turned ash white. Amelia turned to Monica. "She'll do just fine as my agent." Chloe, flustered and trembling, tried to recover. "This has to be fake, there's no way she has that money." Just then, the showroom manager, Alex, arrived. "What seems to be the issue?" "Alex," Chloe blurted, "she's faking it, she's a housekeeper." "I know her background." Alex glanced at Amelia, then at the numbers on her screen, then back at Chloe. "She has the funds, that's all that matters." "Chloe, step aside." Chloe protested, but Alex had had enough. "You're suspended. Effective immediately." Gasps rippled through the room. Amelia smiled softly and turned to Monica. "I'd like to purchase 2 units, one to live in, one as an investment." Monica's eyes widened. You're serious?" "Very." By the end of the afternoon, Amelia had closed on both properties. No mortgage, no questions. Monica couldn't stop smiling. "I've been working here for 3 months. Not a single sale, until today. You've changed my life." Amelia gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then pay it forward. Help the next woman who walks in feeling small." That night, as Amelia watched the city lights from her new balcony, she realized something profound. Her days of being underestimated were over. From here on out, every door she walked through would be on her terms. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't just living. She was rising. Amelia Carter never expected to become a viral sensation. But within days of buying her villas, the whispers began. It started with Chloe's bitter gossip spreading like wildfire. "She's not really rich. Probably shacked up with some old millionaire." Chloe had spat before getting fired. That whisper became a rumor. The rumor became a wildfire. And eventually, Amelia became the villain in a story she didn't even write. What Chloe didn't know was that Amelia had recorded their entire interaction in the showroom. Just in case. And now, with her dignity under fire again, she made a decision. She went live. The stream titled, "So This Is the Woman Who Doesn't Deserve Her Fortune, Let's Talk." She sat in a cozy room, wearing a soft blue sweater. No glitz, no makeup artist, just truth. "I'm not a sugar baby. I'm not a scammer. I'm a mother who gave up everything for her son. And when I had nothing left to give, they threw me out." She explained it all. The orphanage, the adoption, the heart defect, the marriage she sacrificed, the decades she worked as a caregiver, cleaner, assistant, whatever it took. She even held up her son's adoption certificate. "Lucas wasn't born to me. But I loved him as if he was." A tears welled in her eyes, but her voice never broke. "I bought him a house, paid his tuition, nursed him back from the brink of death. And yet when I lost my job, I became a burden. When I wanted rest, I was told to scrub floors in a retirement home." The chat exploded. Support flooded in. "You're not the villain. You're the hero of every silent mother who gave too much. He abandoned you." And then came the second wave. The truth bomb. Amelia played audio of Lucas telling someone he planned to send her to work for an old widower as a living help. His voice was unmistakable. Cold, calculated. "I was never his mother," she said quietly. "I was his bank." The clip tore through social media. Her side of the story exploded across every major platform. Lucas's own livestream, which painted her as a heartless mother, collapsed under the backlash. His sponsors pulled out. His accounts were reported. The pity he once swam in turned to outrage. Meanwhile, Amelia wasn't gloating. She was healing. She donated portions of her inheritance to local women's shelters, hired Monica full-time as her assistant, took piano classes, learned to paint. Her days now began with sunlight through French doors, coffee on a wraparound porch, and long walks by the lake. For once she wasn't rushing to feed someone else's dreams. She was building her own. And for the first time in her life, Amelia Carter wasn't anyone's mother, maid, or martyr. She was simply herself. Years passed. The dust that once clouded Amelia Carter's life had long settled, replaced by the soft morning breeze drifting across the lake outside her home. The town was quiet, understated. A place where no one knew her past, and for once, no one demanded anything from her. She had sold the 2 villas she'd once bought in a blaze of heartbreak and defiance. Turning pain into profit during a booming market, that money became the foundation for something quieter, more meaningful: a charming cottage on the edge of Lake Santee, where wildflowers danced with the wind, and time moved slowly enough for healing. Amelia's mornings began with black coffee, Bach sonatas echoing through the house, and paintbrushes dipped in sunrise hues. Her past didn't haunt her anymore. It taught her. It reminded her of everything she overcame, and she no longer called herself a mother, not because she'd stopped loving, but because she'd started living. She still got letters sometimes, from people who'd watched her story unfold online, women who'd been taken advantage of by family, men who were raised by stepmothers they never appreciated, until it was too late, teenagers who'd realized too late what their parents gave up for them. Each one ended with the same phrase: "Thank you for reminding me that I matter too." And sometimes, that was enough. One sunny afternoon, as she was browsing a local art supply store, she ran into Susan, Grace's mother, the very woman who once tried to ship her off to live with a stranger. Time had not been kind. Susan's eyes were sunken, her designer purse worn, her tone far less biting. "Amelia," she said, almost whispering, "I heard about Lucas. He's in Canada now. Living off scraps, last I heard." Amelia didn't flinch. She just offered a quiet nod. People live with the consequences of what they sow. Susan hesitated. "You were right about everything." But Amelia didn't gloat. She didn't scold. She simply turned back to her watercolor pad and said gently, "I hope you find peace. We all deserve a second chance, but not everyone deserves a second version of me." Back home, she placed that new watercolor paper beneath her easel. She dipped her brush, a gentle lilac, a soft peach, and began to paint the life she had finally claimed. No one called her Mom anymore. But every time she looked in the mirror, she whispered something better. "I forgive you. I love you, and I'm proud of you." That voice used to be silent. Now, it was the only one she listened to. And as the sun dipped below the trees, Amelia Carter, once discarded, once diminished, stood exactly where she belonged, free, unapologetic, unbreakable. Amelia Carter's story teaches us a lesson etched in both pain and power: kindness should never come at the cost of self-destruction. For decades, she poured herself into someone who never saw her as anything more than a tool, an open wallet, a live-in caretaker, a woman to be used and discarded. But in losing everything, she finally found herself. Being a mother, being anything for someone, should never mean losing your dignity. Love is not servitude. Sacrifice without boundaries doesn't make you noble, it makes you invisible. The world often romanticizes endurance. But real strength, it lies in walking away when the love you offer is weaponized against you. Amelia's victory wasn't in the millions she inherited. It was in the moment she chose herself for the first time in her life. If you've ever felt used, overlooked, or trapped in a one-sided relationship, Amelia's story is your wake-up call. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to rest. You don't owe anyone your sanity just because you gave them your time. Whether you're a parent, a caregiver, a partner, or a friend, remember this: love given freely should be returned with respect, not entitlement. If someone refuses to value you without what you provide, they never truly valued you to begin with. It's never too late to reclaim your worth. Have you ever sacrificed too much for someone who didn't appreciate it? Share your story below. We're listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more powerful, real-life stories that inspire healing and strength.